Hello, I'm Yvonne Gamble, CEO of Sanpete Financial Group and co-founder of Women Leading Change Now. I just wanted to take some time and thank you for coming to the 65th convening of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. We have convened here in our parallel event, Goal 8, Aligning Your Financial Goals, 15 women from across several different industries and all from around the world. And they're going to be talking to you on several topics. So I want you give them their undivided attention that they deserve, and also to take the time to replay some of their talks because they are very in-depth and they tell you a lot about the status of women in their communities, in their hometowns, and in their home countries. So thank you and enjoy our summit. I'm going to be talking to you this morning about venture capital's pivot in 2021 and beyond. As a venture capitalist, we're seeing many changes go on in the industry, not because of the pandemic. Actually, we began making changes, shifting our paradigm in about 2000. It began to change drastically. And we make those changes not only to our systems and our processes, but we also make those changes at the legislative level. And that's one of the areas that I do actually participate in my role as co-founder of Women Leading Change Now. So let's go right into it and let's take a look at just what these changes are and what they really mean to you. The first thing, I think I would be remiss if I did not give a good definition, or I should say a simplistic definition to venture capital. Venture capital, very simply stated, and is a venture that you take on. You want to change something. You want to disrupt a society. You want to disrupt a marketplace. You want to bring something new to a marketplace. You want to do something differently than it was done before. So you embark on an adventure to do exactly that. And capital is three things. Capital is obviously thought, capital is humans, and capital is financial. In the thought process of capital, that is how we think about things. That is the wisdom that we bring, the knowledge, the research, the development, all that thought that goes into how that capital is going to look and how to create that capital. That's your thought process in the capital. The human factor, that's everyone that is going to take, from the very first person that you speak to about your idea, to the actual funding of your idea, to the people who are actually going to do the work to bring your idea to fruition. And if you see now, in Africa, they're going to have by 2035 the highest number of people under 30 who can actually work. So they're on different projects and who are in. So they're going to have the youngest working society in the world. It's going to be right there on that continent. So that's going to change just the dynamics of where we actually fund and how we actually engage people to do our funding, to do our projects, and to implement the different processes that we have with the different new technologies that we have in development. One of the things that the pandemic did bring and did usher in with us, it showed us that we can do a lot of things remotely. And so therefore, in a sense, it more or less leveled the playing field because it brought everything right into our living rooms, into our homes, right, and even into our handheld telephones. We have everything right at our fingertips now that we need to work with. So this is also a changing dynamic. So let's take a look more in depth at how the VCs are pivoting, have pivoted, and will continue to pivot as we move further into the future. To understand how we have to look at alternative venture financing. That's the how we're going to get there. The traditional ways of venture finance is going to go by the wayside, and we're going to we have ushered in a new way. There are crowdsourcing funding. There's more social funding. There's more funding that is directed at particular demographics, particular groups. You're going to see all this funding mixture is coming on board, and these are the types of things. That's how we're actually going to attain our venture capital funding as we move forward. So what gets funded? What's out there and what is actually being funded? We're seeing a lot of technology that's coming on. We're calling things technology that we necessarily weren't saying technology before. That's because we are actually putting a techno overlay onto those things, such as agriculture. Now we have drones flying over large fields to see, what types of blight may be affecting a crop, and what types of chemicals that we're putting into the crop, what are the resulting effects on that. We're using AI technology to determine those types of things. One of the things that you want to be considering when you're looking at what you might be going into or how you may bring your product or service on is disruptive. There's disruptive technology. You may come into the marketplace and have a technology that you want to bring forward, and it is not necessarily new, but it is a new way of doing a particular thing. So therefore, you want to look at those types of things are getting funded. Space technology is getting funded. There is so much, everything you think about it, when you think about space technologies, what you have to think about is this, take into consideration, everything that we have on Earth, when we actually go to another place, be it to the moon, be it to Mars, to Venus, out past the solar systems, we have to have those same type of systems, and we have to be able to replicate with what we have. So in order to even begin those journeys, there's construction, there's waste removal, recycling, restructuring at the molecular level, that's changing one product into another product. We have to look at colonization. How do we colonize where we go? How do we build habitats that we have? We have to have plant-based food growth. How do we accomplish that? How do we bring protein into our food substance that we have? Because most certainly we more than likely will not be taking animals with us, but we will have to replicate animal protein because our bodies actually utilize protein as well as the carbohydrates that it derives from the plants. So all of these types of things are going to have to come into play when you're talking about space technology. So there's a lot of room for growth in that field, and there's a lot of room even for work in that field. Electrification, that's a main area that you're going to see a lot of dollars, a lot of billions of dollars have already been put into electrification. But let's look at that. Let's take that apart a little bit more granular on that. When we're thinking about electrification and you really want to go into the high dollar volume technology, you're talking about electromagnetism as a fuel source. If you haven't thought about that, that's something you may want to look into and to do some research and development into. We're looking for alternative fuel sources, not simply being able to plug an electric vehicle in, because most certainly you couldn't plug a rocket ship in, but you most certainly can power a rocket ship with electromagnetism. So this is something that you want to look at as a fuel source. Electrowave communication. Currently, we see Elon Musk deploying satellites in a network way around the world, around the whole entire Earth. And what is that going to do? That will actually bring connectivity and electricity to every system that we have. So when you think about some of the systems or some of the things you want to do, you're going to need to be looking at the impact. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further in this, where we talk about the impact and the value that you bring, the impact of being able to bring electricity to everyone from satellites around the world simultaneously. Currently, when we have satellite transmission, the transmission such as what we're doing now, the signal goes up to a satellite. That signal then is bounced back to a carrier. Those are the carriers that we pay to use this technology, and then it is distributed out. But now we will have the opportunity and we'll have the ability ultimately to be able to have that signal coming to you directly cost factors, cost mechanisms. What is that going to do? That may put us at a zero sum. These are some of the discussions that are out on the table that you need to be a part of so that you get ahead of these different communities and these different types of things that's going on. And and you're a part of that conversation. That's a part of the venture capital. That's a part of financial raise. That should be a part of your financial model, is you being a part of that conversation.
Your medical PPE supplier. Talk to our in-country distributors and get your PPE needs fulfilled. Sign up for recurring shipping to receive deep discounts and keep PPE inventory on hand at all times. We heard your requests and placed strategically located warehouses throughout countries near shipping ports to assure MobaMed PPE supplies are available when you need them.
In the financial area, we're looking at Fintech. Fintech encompasses every way, like electronic funds transfer, every way that we transfer money to and from to one another. We are doing away with currency where we're passing that currency dollar to dollar from person to person, and we're going over to the card technology. Everything is now online. Everything you can communicate that across the wire, across the wave, across networks. So Fintech is something that has to be integrated. If it's not in your community, these are the types of things you need to get into your conversations, in your community, in your groups, with companies that are actually doing these types of things, and look at how you can bring that into your areas. Health is going to be very huge. It's already very huge, simply because of what's going on. What we have found is what this has actually done is we already knew we had disparities in health, but now we understand that we cannot have disparities in health. That is no longer an option. And the reason being is because those who do not have care or do not have access to care, they can make those who do have access to care, they can make them very sick. So everybody gets sick, everybody suffers. So microorganisms and coronavirus, pretty much when it came onto the scene in 2020, it simply showed us that it was no respecter of male, female, one race or another race, or one continent or another continent. It affected everybody simultaneously in the same manner. And so therefore, health is going to become a big issue that we can actually abate by putting funding into those issues. And it's going to be very different the way we actually begin to fund health items coming to the table. We're funding things such as wearables. We're looking at direct communication to healthcare. All these types of mechanisms, many of them we have been testing and we have been using small scale models. Now you're going to see those models are going to be deployed on a worldwide basis, and it's going to be available to all. So who's going to do this? Who's going to bring this $1 billion infusion of venture capital? It's already being made available, and therefore the rules that have and will continue to change. The controllers of current monetary systems are changing. It is becoming a system that is designed by the people who are utilizing it, not a monolithic group who control it. The traditional venture capitalists will do away with those systems of sustainable, ethical, and inclusive. These are failures from the past that simply haunt the venture capital systems. Will not be able to. Traditional venture capitalists will not be able to sustain or hold on to these systems and to make it appear as though they are ethical or that they are inclusive of public relations. Because what happens with these types of systems, by design, they keep more out of the system than they actually bring into the system. What we are seeing is angel investor groups, inclusive capital collectives. And why? In the big scheme of things, venture capital is really just a tiny drop in the large capital pool of the capital that's out there. Angel investors are groups of individuals who invest in a common theme for a common purpose or in a common industry. And with each individual only needing to have a $200,000 per year income and need to show that for a 2-year period, they can then become an accredited investor. And why? Many people are going this route because they themselves want to be the big investors. They themselves want to be able to determine what they invest in, who they invest in, when and why they invest in it. We're becoming more sociable, where we have more touch points, one directly with the other. And therefore, what this actually gives us is the vision that sees exactly what happens to other communities directly. We're not waiting to get information. We get our information at the moment it is actually going on, at the moment it is actually happening. And so therefore the impact of those things to us come far greater, they come sooner, and they also come with a responsibility and an accountability. So that's why you're seeing the whole angel investor network is blossoming out. And they do not have to ascribe to the standard and traditional methodologies of investment. They can do revenue-based investment. They can do crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. They can simply raise funds for a particular group. You can have one individual or you can have a group of individuals. So what they do, ICC, which is one of the groups that came about in about 2019, and they have grown very quickly and very exponentially. And they simply were born out of a group of independent lenders for equity and real estate funds. And what they do, they've been gathering since that time, and they're able to serve and build community wealth. And they're also able to close racial gaps and gender gaps. And this was one of the very reasons for doing that. FAIL, which is the Future Economy Lab, is another global research and design lab that was created. And their focus is on innovating how the world creates financial mechanisms and strategies that will catalyze the growth of inclusive and resilient economies. And it will protect and preserve the planet while benefiting all cultures and all communities. These two groups have brought together forward-thinking organizations and entrepreneurs, and they will pioneer mechanisms that work for all people. This type of thought process doesn't start with a specific financial mechanism in mind. What it does do is it allows for solutions to emerge and ideas through a collaborative process with the members, including in it all the entrepreneurs, all investors, all parties, governments, foundations, business owners, support organizations, all working together for a common good. And it's not simply working together for a financial gain. So, what will your next steps be? There are 5 things that you must do to be successful in your venture capital raise in 2021 and beyond. Your ability to raise capital in this new era will be based on your impact and value to people, communications, communities, states, provinces, countries, and continents around the world. This new era of implementation is titled Collaborative Intention. Number 1, be intentional and deliberate on the impact and value of those who you are looking to serve, those who you are looking to provide a product for. Be intentional and deliberate on that impact and that value, and be able to convey that message to a would-be investor. Number 2, align your investor search list with your impact and value. Do not just simply put everybody on that list who you think have money. That's not what they are investing in. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the value that they bring. And you're looking to make certain that you are aligned with those things they want to do, as well as the things that you want to accomplish. You need to learn the regulatory limits of every investor on your list. Can they actually do revenue-based financing investments? Some VCs legitimately can't because of the regulatory limits to their fund. And that's okay. That you will discover doing your research. Number 3, create a capital raising funnel. Venture capital raising is about relationships. It's not a loan, it's not going to a lender. It is a relationship that you build with the investor or with the investment groups. And therefore, once you have raised your initial capital, you need to continue those relationships. You need to deepen those relationships. And you need to always be developing additional relationships. Now, number 4 is primarily speaking to those people who have been in business for 7+ years, and you're looking to grow or you're looking to expand your market footprint. Your 4th thing that you need to do is to recapitalize in order to grow. Restructure your entire capitalization table to squeeze out, take out the old investors, the old thought process. Bring on new ones and shift the way equity and debt is managed. That may be a reason why you are not able to grow and you're not able to expand. So you are going to have to take, you who have been in business for 7+ years, take a very deep dive into your structure of your capitalization table and how you capitalize your business. Number 5, restructure your corporate structure. This is for all. Number 5 is for everyone, and that is restructure your corporate structure to alleviate capital limitations. You don't want to have any limitations on how you raise capital. That's why it is an imperative that you go back to number 1 and that you know the impact and the value of what you do. And number 2, you align what you are going to do with what that investor is actually looking to invest in. And number 3, that's the reason why you create a capital raising funnel, where that you can actually go back to people and build that relationship or solidify an existing relationship. And number 4, you restructure your entire capitalization table so that you're actually taking out old ideas, old ways, old investor methodologies that are not working for you or may not work for you with where your future growth is looking or expansion is looking to go. So you want to make certain that you restructure your corporate structure and eliminate any capital limitations, that you refocus and reshape the trajectory of your company in the direction you need to either start with, to grow with, or to expand. So what is the sum total of all of this? Capital will continue to play a large role in capitalism because the two are hand in hand, and venture capital is a version of that. To be able to see billions of dollars go into underserved geographies, groups, communities, and countries, the value creation is outrageous. Morgan Stanley and others say that racism and sexism cost the U.S. alone between $4 trillion and $16 trillion in untapped value. Venture capitalists do not like to sit on the outside of any time when there is growth or there's a return on investment that they may be missing. So you can trust and be assured that venture capitalists, as they go from this pivot of 2021 and beyond, that they are making all of the necessary changes, if they have not already, that they have alternative financing mechanisms for you, and they are willing to work with you, and they will fight for you, and they will advocate for you in legislation to make sure that all are truly included, and that the laws and the regulations do not limit you to your participation in financing your next billion. Thank you.
Financing your next billion, gain insights into successful engagements with venture capitalists and investors. Get ahead of industry trends, hear from industry leaders, influencers, founders, policymakers, and governments. Stay in the know on how to finance your next billion.